In this video, we will be learning how to sew a welt pocket. So here is an example of one. So you've got your double welts. You also have a pocket flap. And then inside, you've got a facing of your pocket and then also the actual pocket bag inside. That's what the back looks like. So for this exercise, these are all the pattern pieces you will need. This piece is your garment or where your pocket will be placed. It's got drill holes that you'll definitely need to mark. This shows you where your lips of your pocket will be. Speaking of those, these are your welt lips. So you'll cut 2 of these. And then for your pocket flap, you have the top of your pocket. This piece also has a fusing piece. So make sure that your pocket flap is fused. This is your under flap. So this is what will go on the inside. So sometimes this piece is like a lining piece. This example, the same fabric was used, but I'm going to use a piece of muslin so that you can kind of see the difference. So again, this could be like a slick lining fabric if you wanted it to be that. And then you also have your pocket facing. This piece is also fused. That is the piece inside right here, so that if you were to open up the pocket, you would still see a little bit of the main fabric. And then on your pocket facing, you will have your pocket bag, which is this piece right here. Again, I'm using muslin, but this could also be a slick lining fabric if you wanted it to be that. So to get started, the first thing I'm going to do is to put my pocket flap together. So I'm going to match right side of fabric touching right side, and I'm going to stitch around this at 1/4 inch seam allowance. You can leave this top part open, but just stitch around the edge and these curves at 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay, I've stitched that around at 1/4 inch. Now you want to do the same thing you would do with a collar. You want to understitch this, and we're going to be understitching the seam allowance towards your lining piece because we don't want that understitch to show on the right side of the pocket. So just place this underneath your machine. You're going to hold your seam allowance towards your muslin or your under flap piece and do a 1/8 understitch just as far as you can. You might not be able to get into these corners, but you at least want it at the bottom of this seam right here. Okay. So I have understitched my pocket flap, and I've also pressed it just so that it's nice and smooth all around the edges. Okay, I'm going to set this aside. Okay, now we're going to work on attaching your welt lips, which are these pieces. So we're going to work on attaching your welt lips to your garment piece. So I've got my garment piece and I've got my my lines drawn where these drill holes are. So I have a line drawn from this drill hole to this drill hole, and then I've got a line drawn from this drill hole out towards these two. So on my fabric, it's very faint, but I've got it in orange drawn. So it should look like a line in the center line and then like a little Y coming out on both ends. So along this line, you're going to take your welt lips, which I have taken them and I've folded them lengthwise and pressed them. You're gonna take your welt lip and you're gonna line up your raw edge with that line. And you're just going to evenly space it on each end so that you've got about 1/2 inch falling off of that line. I'm gonna take my other one and I'm gonna do the same thing on the other end of that line. Okay, once you have your welt lips positioned on that line with the raw edges touching the line, so these raw edges are going to be kissing, you're going to stitch in the middle of both welt lips. So this stitch should be about 1/4 inch away from this raw edge. So your folded welt lip is about 1/2 inch long. So right in the middle, that's 1/4 inch away from this raw edge. And then this one is 1/4 inch away from the raw edge. So 2 parallel stitches. There should be about 1/2 inch in between this stitch and this stitch. And as far as where to start your stitch and stop your stitch, on your pattern piece, these are your drill holes with your lines and then the Y's that come out. So your stitch will start at the drill hole that's kind of at the edge of this Y, and then it will end at this drill hole that's the top of that Y. Same for the top one. So start right there and then you'll end right there. So I would put a pin in right here where these drill holes are. So take a pin and wherever your drill hole is, just pin through your fabric like that. And then do another pin right here. And then that will show you where to start your stitch and stop your stitch. Okay, so once you have stitched your 2 parallel lines, now you can cut in the center of this. So I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut in the middle on that line. And you're only going to cut up until on that center line up until this drill hole, and then you're going to cut diagonally towards both of those stitches. So once I am right here, I'm going to clip diagonally and clip diagonally. So like that. So clip diagonally towards the ends of those stitches and you'll have this little triangle, and do that on the other side. Once you've clipped, you're going to take your welt lips and you're going to fold them towards the inside to where, so I took all this raw edge and I fold it towards the inside to where just your lip that's folded over, just where that shows. So you're going to do this on both sides. Turn all of that inwards. And then you're gonna go and press this. Okay, I have finished my welt lips So I've pressed those to where the raw edges are out on the wrong side of the fabric. So right now I'm going to set this aside and I'm going to start to prepare my pocket bag. So here's my pocket bag. This is going to be looped like this, but we are also going to have a facing piece connected to where if you were to open the pocket, you see this facing underneath. You don't see the pocket bag. So we need to attach this facing to our pocket bag. So you're just going to take it and fold it to where, or turn it where right side is touching the right side of your pocket bag, and you're going to stitch this at 1/4 inch seam allowance. Just stitch across. Okay, I have stitched my pocket facing to my pocket bag, and I've just pressed that 1/4 inch seam allowance open. Now we can start to connect our pocket flap, our facing and bag, both of those pieces. We can start to attach that to our piece with our welt lips. So the first thing that you need to do is attach your pocket flap to the seam allowance that's inside here of your top welt lip. You're going to line up the raw edge of this top welt lip with the raw edge of your pocket flap. Make sure that the right side of your fabric for your pocket flap is facing down when you match this up, because from the right side, when this is sewn, we'll be able to pull our pocket flap out like that or tuck it in. So again, top welt lip, the raw edge, match up with the raw edge of your pocket flap. And I'm going to just stitch this together onto this seam allowance. Just stitch it at just a little less than 1/4 inch. You want your seam to be inside of this 1/4 inch. So I would do like a skinny 1/4 inch or just a bigger 1/8 of an inch. Okay, so I have stitched that pocket flap onto the seam allowance of that top welt lip, and then just make sure that you've lined it up correctly. So if I popped this out, it should lay nice and flat and not be bunching up on the corners. Now you're going to attach your facing and pocket bag. So for this one, you're going to turn your facing and pocket bag, you're going to turn this over and you're going to line up the top edge of your facing piece on top of the top edge of this pocket flap and that welt lip seam allowance. So you're just going to line that up and you're going to stitch again over that. Again, just attaching it to this seam allowance right here. So just stitch at a skinny 1/4 inch or a larger 1/8 of an inch seam. Okay, I have attached that onto that same seam allowance. So this is what it should look like so far. Now we need to attach this bottom edge of your bag to the bottom edge of this bottom welt lip. So just flip this, should look like this, flip this piece back, and then the raw edge of this bottom welt lip, you want to match up with the raw edge of your pocket bag. And you're going to do the same thing where you stitch at about a skinny 1/4 inch or a larger 1/8 of an inch. onto this seam allowance is where you're going to attach this edge. Okay, so I have attached that. So turning it with the top, this is what you should have so far. Your welt lips and then your pocket bag. Now we just need to close up the sides. So one very important part of this is that when you're closing up the sides, you need to find that little triangle that you had cut for your welt lips. You need to find that triangle, and you need to make sure that you stitch over it. So let me get this lined up and I'll show you. Okay, so it's very tiny, but this triangle right here, when you're stitching, we're gonna stitch down and close this pocket bag. Make sure that you stitch over this triangle. Sometimes you'll hear it called stitching your ducktail. Sometimes they call that the ducktail. Close the ducktail, because if you don't stitch over this triangle, there's going to be a hole in the corner of your welt lips. So just make sure you find that triangle right there, and we're going to stitch down on this edge, and then we'll do the exact same thing on the other edge of the pocket. Okay, here's a better view of stitching over that ducktail. So when you close your pocket, you're just going to come and make sure you stitch over that, and then you're going to continue to stitch down your pocket. And that's going to close up that welt. Okay, and that is your welt pocket, and you should be able to take your flap and pull it out. And then your pocket bag is a little big. If you want to trim this part up, you can on each side. Yeah, and that is it.